for joining us for the evening portion of our 5th Annual Leadership Summit. I wanted to just come out briefly and share with you a few observations. First of all, we are in the most beautiful place, and so many of you took advantage of the opportunities to get out and about today and take a walk, go to yoga. And part of what we wanted to do in shaping this experience for you all was give you some opportunities to just build community, be in a beautiful place. So if you were able to do that today, kudos to you. And if you haven't done it yet, please try to do so tomorrow, because this is a stunning environment to kind of refresh and reset, especially for the women I met from Michigan, where it's 21 where they are. I also just cannot help but comment on some of these super fun touches that we're experiencing here tonight. You probably saw this on the back of your welcome kit, but I want to give a special thanks to our co-founder, our visionary, my friend, Sylvie Legier. The Martini Luge, Sylvie. The water drummers, Sylvie. And this beautiful room and the setting that we're in, I can just tell you, Sylvie wants to pursue excellence. You guys know this about her if you know her well, in everything she does. She is a go for it, moonshot kind of woman. And I can tell you that that spirit of excellence and really just putting our best selves out there, that permeates everything we do at the Policy Circle. And I have no doubt that you are meeting women in this room that are filling you with that sense of hope, right? Like, these are my people. Look what we can accomplish together. And I have heard comments today that have really filled my cup. I talked to a woman earlier who said, since I retired, I didn't realize how much I missed being around smart women. And I've heard other people say, wow, I'm not the only one that thinks these things, right? So much of this is about finding community. It's about courage. We've talked to you about courage. You're going to hear from one of our other co-founders, an incredible career that she's had. I have so much admiration and respect for Angela Brawley, and she's going to talk to you about what is civic leadership. And then tomorrow we're going to kind of close this out and talk about clarity and focus. So what I want to say tonight is enjoy this time away from home. And if you're joining us virtually, soak up the amazing wisdom that you're going to hear from our keynote speaker later, and make sure that you're connecting with us on the app. So again, I just want to tell you to enjoy this evening and make sure that you make some new friends, because there are some amazing women in this room. So thank you again. And right now I'm going to direct your attention to the screens for a video.
The first obligation of a citizen is to be civically engaged.
People's realization that policies actually affect them personally in so many ways is the most powerful experience.
Growing up, my father was involved in local politics. He was a precinct captain on the south side of Chicago, and election day was a big deal for our household. Unfortunately, I lost my dad to random gun violence in the city of Chicago. Violence is a byproduct of poverty and inequity. That's when I knew I had to stop being a bystander and I had to get involved.
I got really involved in political events because I love this country so much, and I started seeing it changing. And some of the things that I started hearing were so close to socialism, which is what I've lived, that I wanted to make sure that I participate and that I bring my perspective.
Citizens need to be involved in the process so that we can bring about peace and harmony in our communities. In my quest to be more civically engaged, I started to search out opportunities for women to help shape policy. I knew that this would be a step in the right direction for me to connect with women who cared as much about civic engagement as I do.
Policy Circle made me realize that I have a voice. I became so inspired by my experience with Policy Circle that I realized that I can get a lot of traction and that I can make a difference by reaching out to people making sure that they vote.
If you keep allowing other people to shape your world, they will keep doing so without your input. You have to make the time, you have to educate yourself, and information is readily available.
Reach out, affect people, impact people, be a community leader, circle up.
Okay, how powerful are those stories? So it is my turn to cry in front of all of you and say to my friend Sylvie that I love you and I love what you've created, because she gets all the credit. We get to be on this board of directors, and it's such an honor because what has happened. So with that, okay, so we learned earlier today from Jenna and Laura that is all about the stories. So I'm going to share another story with you and share with you a photo from the Policy Circle Summit in Chicago in 2017. Can you guys show me the photo from the Policy Circle Summit? Okay. So this is Liz Keating, me, and Jill Jansen. And Liz and Jill are from Cincinnati and started a policy circle in 2017. Okay, and this is this week. Can we show the next photo? That is Jill Jansen getting elected to the city council in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I think those stories are so important, and the power, somewhere there was a spark that encouraged Liz to take that next step and run for city council, which ended up successfully for her. Let me say, when we first founded the Policy Circle, we thought, we had this little saying that women need to find their voice. Well, guess what? Women have found their voices. They just wanted to practice them a little bit. And so the Policy Circle provided a way to do that. What women needed was a reliable source of curated information so you could fully understand the impact of public policy and develop your own talking points. Women want to take action, but they often find it difficult because they need a starting point. They need a framework where they can identify their focus and develop relationships in their communities. And importantly, they need a supportive group of other women to come together and encourage them. So the Policy Circle provides all of these resources to women to help them reach their full potential as civic leaders. The Policy Brief Library now has 55 plus briefs. We heard this morning about more that are coming. The topics range from mental health to housing to the Middle East to financial literacy. And one of the things we expected from the very beginning is women want education, but they don't want to be talked down to. They want to learn, and they want to talk up to the rest of the world in terms of all of the things that they care about. These briefs give you the tools to host a conversation, to have regular circle meetings, and to use this Policy Circle roundtable model. So we've all been suppressed a little bit in terms of our activities because of COVID, but now is the time we're relaunching in cities across the country, and please go back home and encourage other women to get involved. We have this virtual programming, which can give people some insights in terms of what's available. And those are available once a month. And because they're virtual, we've had some really amazing speakers who can come talk to a large audience of women. We've had 40 events that were virtual, and we put them on the Policy Circle's YouTube channel. So you can go and hear some of those as well. They're terrific. We also launched this year the Civic Leadership Engagement Roadmap. also known as CLEAR, but really CLEAR. And it is a 3-month program that helps women gain an understanding of founding principles and then apply them at a local level. It's really an amazing leadership program. I know many of you guys have participated in that. So we do have another program. We're going to talk about this a little bit tomorrow, but there's an application for the next class of Clear Leaders, and it's on the app, so take a look at that. So you've heard from us that civic leadership requires courage, and we shared with you how the Policy Circle community lifts one another up and helps women have more confidence as they go forward and use those voices that they've practiced and learned more about public policy issues. And we've seen, like Liz becoming a city councilwoman, that women are stepping up. And not everybody needs to be in public office. There are many, many ways for you to get involved. You can volunteer in a variety of ways. You can volunteer as election judges and poll workers, organizing communities. You can organize some of the service projects in that area. You can write op-eds and social media posts. You can apply for commissions and task forces, and you can run for office. All of our leadership journeys are unique to us. So find your focus, get informed, circle up with women in your community, remind them that there are women in 44 states across the country, and we welcome you to bring the solutions that relate to personal responsibility, entrepreneurism, and make a difference in your community. So, with Mary Beth, I think I'm going to have a cue from Stacy. Oh, no, this is later. So, Mary Beth and Stacy, come on. Just Stacy for now. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome. Yes.
All right, this is a fun part. Am I hot? There we go. Well. I'm going to struggle to recover from that, but thank you. All right, guys, so I have the honor of awarding some really amazing women here. The Policy Circle's success relies heavily on a nationwide support network, if you will. We have a wide variety of sources that enable us to do what we do. So from grants to membership donations and generous supporters who value and invest in the mission of the Policy Circle. The Community Impact Award recognizes 2 women who have broadened and advanced the Policy Circle's impact and who serve as, I'm telling you, the best ambassadors for our mission. Both of these women have made strategic introductions to broaden our reach. They've hosted events to identify new strategic partners. These are women who there is no dust gathering here. They are turning every stone, and they have fully embraced this mission, even though they've only been involved for a very short period of time, like over the last year. These are opportunity-focused women who really want to enhance the work of the Policy Circle and who really know how to leverage the model to ignite potential in others. Now, here's also something I have to add. These are 2 women that I have now come to call my friends, who I text, who are supportive, and I just can't tell you how honored I am to bring to the stage 2 remarkable women. Kathy Cranberg of Ponte Vedra and Elizabeth Fowler of Tampa. Come on up here.
Does it matter which one?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take it right here. So let's do the 3 of us. You're so good. All right, let's get Elizabeth up here, get her award too.
Good, good.
Oh, let's do it all together.
Here.
Aww. appreciate you. All right. So incredible women just keep permeating our world here. And so at this point, I want to recognize our National Advisory Council. This is a group of women who have invested time and resources into the organization, and what I love most is it's becoming a group that gives us all kinds of great ideas. And it's become a sounding board for us as we consider our strategies to grow and broaden our impact. So I'm going to call your name if you don't mind standing, and we're going to just recognize you as a group. Kathy Cranberg, Rebecca Dunn, Jessica Dean, Jackie Emmett, Richard Emmett. They are joining us virtually tonight from New York. Beth Feely from Chicago, virtually joining us. Elizabeth Fowler, Troy Fowler, who we'll show him a recording. Dawn Hoffman is here. Ina Kim Shahad, Melinda Oakes, Cheyenne O'Shaughnessy, Liz Arella, and Barbara Stewart. If you will make sure everyone's standing and give them a round of applause. So we have a new award tonight, and this is something that our team took very seriously as we were thinking about a new award category. And it really was brought on by an exemplary leader in our Policy Circle community. Mary Beth Weiss, which many of you know and love Mary Beth, she really exemplifies the Policy Circle mission. She was an early adopter and champion of this movement and continues to courageously gather women using our roundtable model and the Policy Circle briefs in her new hometown of Winter Park, Florida. Mary ignites potential, Mary Beth ignites potential in other women and leads by example. She is an active philanthropist who supports many liberty-focused organizations, and she really personifies what it means to be civically engaged. The Policy Circle is honored to have Mary Beth with us here tonight. She's coming out to join me to present the first annual Mary Beth Weiss Catalyst Awards to 4 women.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you. Yes, that was an embarrassing nice introduction. Thank you very much. As many of you, most of you know, it's great to champion an amazing organization. I was first drawn to the Policy Circle in 2016. I just recognized its mission as filling a void. There was no one else working in the space back then, and the need to have women in the public square was so important. Many of us older folks knew when we were the only ones in the room. At any rate, Kathy, Angela, and Sylvie founded the Circle as a safe space for women to discuss issues. But through their strategic planning, I have never been at a Policy Circle where women haven't been ignited and engaged and decided to take action. So, of course, tonight they are honoring their members with a Catalyst Award. Stirring the pot is what they are all about. The women we are honoring tonight have done most of these things. Hosted gatherings using the Policy Circle briefs and the roundtable model, leading to measurable impact. Made an effort to connect women of different backgrounds or perspectives, or gathered stakeholders in the community to tackle particular issues. These award winners exemplify courage and model the Policy Circle's core principles of personal responsibility and local leadership. Sylvia Menares, Rockford, Illinois. Are you here? Are they coming up? Jill Schramm, Overland Park. Amelia Tishton, Deerfield, Illinois. And Christy Day, Solana Beach, California. Anyway, congratulations and thank you. Okay. Oop.
Do it real quick. Take her.
Okay, and I'll read this. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Stacy and I have an important last group of awards to give, and I'm so delighted to know many of these people. So we have a Lifetime Achievement Award, and tonight we're recognizing 3 women who have supported the Policy Circle organization since its inception, before its inception. And the 3 women that we're going to talk about are some of the earliest adopters who believed in our mission, hosted the first discussions in their living rooms back in 2515 after Sylvia and I did. And all 3 of these ladies were instrumental in organizing and sustaining our first 2 state leadership councils in Indiana and Illinois. They've served as mentors to other circle leaders, have participated in various focus groups, and have dedicated their time, talent, and resources to make the Policy Circle successful. Additionally, all 3 of these women participated in our beta class of the CLEAR program, the Policy Circle's Civic Leadership Program, which you're going to hear more about tomorrow, and helped to develop and streamline the format of the curriculum for that program. These women exemplify civic leadership. They've hosted regional events, appeared on film for the Policy Circle, referred a countless number of members to the Policy Circle, written op-eds, which have been published, and they've been appointed to positions by their governors. So please welcome me and Stacy to join us to welcome these women who are true examples of success of the Policy Circle missions and the winners of this year's Lifetime Achievement Award, Jamie Locke of Fort Wayne, Indiana, Nancy Matheson of Lake Forest, Illinois, and Katie Glick of Indianapolis, Indiana. Come on up. Come on down, as they
Come on
say.
down.
Here's Katie.
Oh, this is
There we
renamed as
go.
like the all-star. Thank
Okay, my dear.
All right.
Now,
All right, one more round of applause, please, for our award winners. We are enormously grateful, and at this point, I believe we're going to take a few minutes to enjoy your dinner, and then I'll come back and give you a little preview of our keynote, which I think you're going to really enjoy. So enjoy your meal. I do definitely want to make sure that you get more opportunities to make friends and continue these conversations, but we have one more really substantive and I think enlightening program session for you to watch tonight. So I have to tell you, I am very excited about introducing our keynote speaker. Dina Powell McCormick is the Global Head of Sustainability and Inclusive Growth at Goldman Sachs. She is also the Global Head of the firm's Sovereign Business. She is responsible for helping build and enhance the firm's reputation with global sovereign clients. If you know what that means, it means she's on a plane to the Middle East on a regular basis. She serves on the management committee and the firm-wide client and business standards committee. And Dina rejoined Goldman Sachs in 2018 as a partner in the investment banking division after serving as the U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for strategy from 2017 to 18. Dina was instrumental in launching Goldman's wildly successful 10,000 Women and 10,000 Small Business initiatives and is now spearheading the 1 Million Black Women Initiative. Dina's career trajectory is remarkable. Now I have to fill you in on something that's not in the bio. Dina and I started on the same day, I'm not going to tell you what year, let's just say the 90s, in U.S. House Majority Leader Dick Armey's office. We were there during Contract with America in the heyday. And I have to tell you, I headed back to Texas, went to law school. Dina went to the White House. And I have watched her career over the years in awe. Dina, you'll hear more about her story. She is the daughter of Egyptian immigrants. She's from Dallas. She's a graduate of Ursuline and UT. And her story, I believe, is really going to inspire all of you. So please direct your attention to the screens and enjoy our keynote from Dina Powell McCormick. All right, Dina, your career trajectory is remarkable. I have to say I've watched you with a mixture of awe and pride. I find it hard to believe that it's been, we won't even say how many years since we were together in a tiny office working for Dick Armey. So I'm so honored to finally sit down with you again.
Oh, thank you, Stacy. It is such a treat to see all that you have done and how lucky the Policy Circle is, frankly, to have you with them. You and I did start out very young, I'd like to say.
Very young.
Very young, many, many years ago on Capitol Hill and what feels like many lifetimes ago. And in many different ways, too.
It really does. It's remarkable, though, when I think about all that you have accomplished and the really unique roles that you've had since we were together. So for people that aren't familiar with your background, can you share a little bit about your family and your, I'm going to have to say Dallas roots, we can say Texas roots, and really just kind of that path to the White House? Just a little overview. I know that's a long story, but maybe if you could just share with our audience tonight, you know, how you are sitting with us here today.
Oh, well, that's so nice of you. And thank you for coming to Goldman Sachs. I'm so sad not to be with you all. I was so excited when Sylvie called me and asked me to participate. We have our own partner offsite while y'all are gathering here in Florida. But it's sort of a crazy journey. And if I'm being very honest, it certainly wasn't one that was planned out or perfectly thought through. You know, I'm an immigrant to this country from Cairo, Egypt. My family came from a very small Coptic Christian community, and we immigrated to the great state of Texas, to Dallas, and I grew up there. And honestly, my parents, of course, had to work incredibly hard. We didn't speak English when we first came. It was much easier for me to learn how to speak English being a, 4.5-year-old. And I remember it took my father a lot longer, actually. And, they are like many millions of immigrant families who really came here in the hopes that their daughters could reach their potential. And I always tell a funny story that you remember because when you and I started working together, I had dutifully done what my parents asked me to do, which was, Dina, they used to say to me and my sisters, we left our homeland, we left our church, we left everything behind so you and your sisters could pursue your dreams and be anything you want to be as long as you're a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. You remember that story?
I do remember.
More than 20 years ago.
That's right.
And so I had to show them the deferral letter and say I was just going right back to Texas to go to law school when I got into the crazy business of government and worked in the House Majority Leadership with you and really kept thinking, honestly, I was going back to Texas and going to law school. And this is something that I give, honestly, advice to young women and young men today. Like so many people, my parents were concerned I wouldn't have a stable job. And so I think they thought the plan for me was law school, go to a law firm, maybe one day be lucky enough to make partner. And, there's your career trajectory. And while that's safe, you can often miss amazing journeys that you couldn't have even dreamt up yourself if you do that. So I often tell people, whether here at Goldman Sachs, take some risk in your life because without it, you won't know what you could have achieved and what maybe God wanted you to achieve and that path for you. And so from that office, a wonderful governor of Texas, George W. Bush, was running for president, and I had the opportunity to work on his campaign in D.C. and eventually work in the White House and the State Department. I was the head of presidential personnel and a senior advisor on the senior staff at the White House, and then was Assistant Secretary of State under Secretary Condoleezza Rice, who's a pretty extraordinary, powerful woman and a great mentor and friend. And, I remember the day my father met President Bush. I think he kept thinking, what is she doing with her life? When is she going to get a real job? Because for them, ordinary citizens weren't involved in government, in where they came from. And so for them, they didn't understand it. And President Bush was unbelievably gracious when he met him. And I think my father really felt like, wow, there aren't a lot of countries in the world where, a little girl who could come to the United States, not speak a word of English, and one day serve the president of his adopted country.
Which is incredible. And then President Bush featured you in his most recent book. I can imagine you were pretty taken back by that whole experience. I mean, it's really incredible, the artwork and the story that really features your family's journey.
Well, you cannot imagine how honored I was. And if I'm being very honest, I will tell you the true story. He called me and he said, I've decided I want to tell the story of immigrants, and I want to paint them. He loves to paint now, and he's quite an extraordinary painter. And he said, I want to paint immigrants, and I want to tell the story because millions of legal immigrants across our country are really adding so much value, and I want to tell that. And so honestly, I went right into, have you thought about Indra Nooyi? Have you thought about, you love Hamdi, Ulikaya? I was giving him, he goes, no. He said, I'm going to paint you. And honestly, it's not false humility. I just said, what? Why? And he said, Dina, I'm really excited to paint you. I just have one thing I'm concerned about. And I said, what is it, Mr. President? And he said, I am just so worried that my painting skills will not match your vanity. And then we'll have a problem.
She might come back and say, no, I don't like this, President Bush.
Well, Mrs. Bush talks about this publicly, but she didn't like the painting of him. He says women are harder to paint, I think. But anyway, it was an incredible, incredible honor. And my parents haven't stopped buying books or crying. So.
Well, as they shouldn't. I think he selected well, and it's a remarkable story. I'd love to kind of shift gears a little bit. Dina, you were here and instrumental in the launch of two wildly successful initiatives that were really sort of groundbreaking, I think, especially in the financial community, the 10,000 Women program and then the 10,000 Businesses. I know it's probably impossible in a quick interview for you to talk to me about the overall impact, but can you just share sort of the impact and then maybe one story in particular that stands out to you?
Sure. When I was recruited, it was sort of the last year of the Bush administration, and I was recruited to Goldman Sachs. And in 2007, there was a lot of good work being done by corporations in the charitable realm, but there really wasn't a strategic focus. Now today we're all much more used to talking about impact investing, ESG, and thinking about it much more as core to the business, not a side project of a company. But back then, people were still starting to kind of build this market, if you will. And I think the firm saw there was a gap. And, could we really do something meaningful? What we do every day is allocate capital and try to find good investments that drive economic growth around the world. And hopefully in doing so, think about the equity of that economic growth. And so in 2007, we had done a tremendous amount of research research. We had put out a piece of research called Womenomics by our chief economist in Japan, Kathy Matsui. And it found, of course, that greater labor force participation by women in Japan would increase Japanese GDP growth. But given the size of that economy, it would have a ripple effect all around the world. And so given the numbers people that we are and the economists that live at Goldman, we started to say, well, is there something that we could invest in that would make a big difference? And so we realized that a lot of good work had been done in the microfinance space, for example, but there really wasn't a dedicated focus on small and medium-sized enterprise owners that happen to be female. You know, women in emerging economies that, given business education, capital, and mentoring, could really take that small business and unleash the potential. And often what happens is they hire more women. They then take 90% of their income and reinvest it into the community and families in which they're living. And so we started it. It was a scary project. You know, at the time, there were no large scale. We were the largest ever at that time investment in the economic empowerment of women around the world. You know, today everyone's talking women's empowerment, which is very exciting. But back then I had to answer lots of questions about where are we going to invest this capital? Who are we going to work with? How are we going to measure success? And so we took a big bet. Today, I'm proud to tell you that we've reached 70,000 female entrepreneurs, that we have a partnership with the World Bank where we've raised $1.2 billion of capital that is provided to local banks in emerging economies that is lent to these women. And I'll tell you a quick story, which is one of my favorites. It happens to be from Egypt, but a woman who was in a very difficult marriage actually decided her only way out was to start a small company. And she started a company called Pink Taxi. It's all female drivers for female passengers. And this allowed women in Egypt to feel very safe going to work, dropping off their children, etc. And so she started it, and her husband was totally against it. After she graduated from 10,000 Women, she has now created 1,000 jobs. Her husband is now working for her, and she is actually being talked to by major car companies like the Ubers of the region. And so she's transformed her whole community. And these are the stories that you see. The women already had the passion and the great business idea, and with a little support, they could do so much more. And then we realized that in the United States, when we always knew we were going to have a domestic presence, and we realized that 50% of every job that had been created in the last decade when we launched this program had come from small business owners in the United States. I mean, if you think about the magnitude of that, you know, we're proud at corporations of our size to create jobs, we hope, but it's really the small business owners across America that are doing that today. And so we decided that we would work in the U.S. We're now in almost every state working with, we did let men in this program, male and female entrepreneurs, again, small businesses, underserved communities. A large percentage are women and people of color. And again, we're providing capital, business education, and support. And both programs, you know, we measure things at Goldman. Right. Both programs have really succeeded. 80% of the graduates increased their revenues, 60% created net new jobs, and in the case of 10,000 Women, 90% were paying it forward by mentoring other women. And so, you know, we're proud of them. We know that, frankly, lots of companies are doing good work. In our case, what we were hoping to do was to say there are market-based solutions that if you allocate capital to the right leaders in our country, they will do all the rest, and they get the most credit.
Well, and it is remarkable, and I do think it might be unique to women in some respect, but what we've seen is when a woman takes on a leadership role, right, and starts to have an impact in her community, that ripple effect, right, to their family, their church, their business, their neighborhood. So it sounds to me like, you know, this is transformational, not just for the participants of the program, but you're seeing that effect for the children that they have, and then everyone they come into contact with. It's empowering, it seems like, for the entire community. It
really is, and I think it's the economic independence piece. Once a woman is economically independent, her voice is respected more, is heard more, and suddenly, I mean, if you think about the very mission of Policy Circle, it's for women to have the confidence to believe that their voice can matter, that if they participate, they will have they will make a difference. And it's often honestly us women that doubt ourselves, that we think I couldn't possibly do it. But one major, way to level the playing field is when women, particularly in underserved areas, have some economic independence. Suddenly their husbands, their fathers, their communities start listening to them in a very different way.
Yeah, it's a game changer. That's so exciting. And I think what I'd love to do now, Dina, is, our summit is focused on power and water and leadership. And in your current role as Global Head of Sustainability and Inclusive Growth, can you share your perspective on the importance of reliable power and water to spur that economic growth?
Well, I think that if you are just in business today, you know that people are really thinking about the transformation of our economy, and it is happening, and people are looking for ways that sustainability isn't just the right thing to do, or you have to do it, but really we're changing our economy, and there's the hope that there'll be new jobs and new innovations. There's an industrial revolution of another kind, if you will, but we have to be thoughtful about how we do it. At Goldman Sachs, we've committed $750 billion over the next decade in two major areas. One of them is climate transition, and we very purposefully use the word transition. I think we don't ever want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Every one of our clients, depending on their industry, is on a different journey and have different capabilities. And so I think working to be innovative with them about how it is that we can try to reach these sustainability goals that not only obviously make sense, but that could actually be an enormous production booster. So with Apple, with my counterpart Lisa Jackson and I worked together to build something called the Restore Fund. It's a $200 million fund that will be investing in the latest technologies around reforestation. Because even when Apple commits to its sustainability goals, obviously it's going to take it time.
Sure.
It's going to be hard, but how amazing is it to think about a capital structure that can actually invest in a new way to reforest the world? And that is something that, goes just beyond, kind of platitudes, to be honest with you, and thinks of new ways to invest. We're a big investor in a company called Northvolt, which is an incredible electric battery company that no one believed in, that we believed in. I was just on the phone with Mary Barra, the CEO of GM, and not only is she just an extraordinary leader, but she made a bold decision to go electric. And, it's really interesting to see her describe the enthusiasm, because we're talking about the next set of technologies. And that's something that you want to be part of the future when you're working for companies like Apple or like GM. And so I think that kind of leadership is exciting. And what you often need is an advisor or a financier or a co-investor. And so we've been very proud to think about it that way, that we want to partner and really try to think about sustainable water, sustainable power, and also be really respectful that people are on different journeys.
I think that piece is key, right? Because we have to identify a balance in renewables and innovation, but recognizing what current limitations are, right, with existing technology. Right now we have 3.5 billion people in the world that don't have access to reliable power. Is that something that is playing into Goldman's strategy in terms of where they're investing and the types of projects they're investing in?
Absolutely. We happen to be the largest supplier of solar in India because of a major investment and a series of investments that we made there many years ago. And, it's interesting, power is sort of the bedrock of obviously what people need in the world just to live. But during COVID, we also learned that it furthers the inequity in our society in everywhere, including in the United States, when so many children did not have access to digital schooling. And, you think about the impact that that's going to have. And so power is obviously, you could talk, it's a very broad umbrella that is, everything from electric to solar to even new emerging technologies. But I do think that it ends up having a bit of a climate injustice issue where when it's very hard if you aren't living in a country that is yet weaned off of traditional sources of power, and that means that's going to hurt them economically. And so just, again, being very thoughtful about how we as a country try to maybe have the same goals around these issues, but really maintain a tremendous amount of respect and partnership.
So I think we might shift now to talk about leadership for just a few minutes. You know, as we've said, your journey's amazing, and at the Policy Circle, we really encourage women to step into the arena, right? Requires courage and confidence. And can you share some advice to women that are maybe in the early stages of their civic leadership journey? You know, we're encouraging them to get a seat at the table, right, where the decisions are made. What advice would you give to those women?
You know, it's hard. I want to start with that. And sadly, I feel that every year gets a little bit harder and the environment gets more toxic, sadly. And that's, again, why Policy Circle is so important. It's to have a nonpartisan approach to saying that women's voices really have to be at the table if we care about these issues. And, you know, I will admit to you, having served in government with you, and then, you know, in the private sector for so many years, I have often been the only woman in the room. I've often been the only woman in the Situation Room or the Oval Office or the boardroom here upstairs at Goldman Sachs. And it makes it all the more difficult to raise your voice. And I have had a few lessons that I'll pass along that are hard to share, but I think if we are a little bit more open with each other, that's one of the most important things we can do to encourage ourselves, you know, each other participating. You know, one of the things that I think women tend to do is feel that, you know, oh, if I say something wrong, if I come out and I do something wrong, you know, I'm going to be laughed at or attacked or, you know, depending on the arena. And this is something that so many of us struggle with, where you go into the pitch, you know, 90%, this just happened actually. I took a young woman who works with me, we were pitching for a big piece of business, and we went in and boy, were we prepared. And that's something that Condi Rice and other colleagues of mine or mentors of mine have taught me. Be prepared. You have to be the most prepared person in the room. And boy, were we prepared. And we went in and we really, I would say, did a good job. But, you know, we messed up on one minor issue. And the gentlemen that were with us, you could tell, had not read everything. We're not quite as prepared. And as they walked out, they were high-fiving each other. Man, we crushed that. And, of course, she and I were like, oh, I can't believe that why we said that. We shouldn't have said it that way, and obsess. Well, let me tell you, that holds women back.
It does.
It holds women back. Men don't think like that.
No.
They think I crushed it. They think I deserve to be at this table. We have to start thinking like that. And the only way to start to feel that way is to train yourself, and I work on it every day not to do that, but to also recognize that failure is part of it. My other lesson came from a mentor of mine who will go unnamed, a very well-known gentleman who called me one time and he said, you know, I can tell you're very upset that there's some noise around a decision you made and that people are criticizing it. And I said, oh, I was trying to be cool. I said, well, yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't fair. They didn't have all the facts. And he said, you know, here's the deal, Dina. Everybody in their life has to decide, do I really want to be in that room and sit around that table? And the higher the levels go, mean the decisions are harder if they get to that table in that room. And so you just have to decide, are you someone that can take the heat that way? Because if you're making decisions that get to that table or that room, that means 50% of people are going to think you were wrong.
That's right. And
so you just need to develop that tougher skin, you know, trust in your core and in your values. For me, that's saying a lot of prayers. And, you know, really believe that you're trying to do the right thing. And then just make the best decision you can and drown out the rest of the noise. And that's another thing that I think it's scary to get in the arena, because definitionally you've got to make calls and people will criticize you, and you'll figure out who your friends are too along the way.
Well, and talking about your friends, don't you think when you're in those scenarios, right, and you're sort of either preparing or you've come out of that big meeting or you're reading the newspaper in your case and something's being said, right, about the decision you made, how important has it been for you to have allies, right? A community of people that you can go to that either understand your journey family are just supporting you as you do take your risk. That's a big part of the Policy Circle community, is surrounding yourself with other women who genuinely care and they want to be civically engaged, but they might need that additional support. So how important has your support structure been for you?
It's been absolutely vital. Of all the important things that Policy Circle provides, I would put this at the very top. Because what you really need is people that are going to be with you when it's hard, just as much as when it's easy. And those people have to tell you the truth. And that's the other thing that I'll say in terms of leadership lessons, at least that I've very humbly learned along the way. You want those people that are really going to be direct, and they're going to say, yeah, that wasn't your greatest moment, and let me give you some advice on how to make it better, or you didn't handle that right. And I think that that is the truest kind of support and friendship. But then to be, hey, we've got your back on this, and we will be with you. We will not desert you in that moment where you really need to have that support. Because if you are deserted, you're never going to go into the next arena or try anything else. And so that kind of support and friendship really matters. And then I think failure. You know, I talk about this with my daughters, who, by the way, when I was just left our management committee meeting and I was racing to come meet you, and one of them was like, did you leave my volleyball, whatever, in the closet? And I said, I've got a very important speaking engagement, Ava. And she said, who's the important speaker?
I love that. I love that. I just really need to know where my volleyball things are.
Yeah, and she didn't think it was me. So that's a very good humility. As everyone knows, children have a wonderful way of keeping you humble. But I talk to them about failure. It's so painful in the moment. It's so embarrassing. It's so hurts. But if you don't have those failures along the way, you never learn from them. I mean, I look back and when I think about, oh, how did I mess that up so badly? I just didn't have the experience, or I didn't know any better. But that is when I grew the most. And I'll never let that happen again. And if you don't have those series of failures, just as much as hopefully the successes along the way, you can't possibly grow. So all of that to say, we have to jump in the arena. You know, this is our country. This is our world, and we have to care. It's going to be messy. We're going to make mistakes, but our voices really matter. And I think with a community that you all are building, hopefully there's that kind of net to catch us when we're having those bad days and those bad moments. But I really want to encourage everyone participating in the summit. You know, please lend your voice. Please participate. The famous quote, of course, about being in the arena. It's the I don't like that it says it's the man that gets bloodied and bruised. So we'll call it the woman.
That's right.
Who gets bloodied and bruised, but in the end, at least she got in the arena.
That's right. Well, and I think, one other thing I just wanted to sort of ask you about, as, the roles obviously that you're filling now, right? You're not only in your professional life, but in your personal life. I mean, a busy mom raising 6 daughters, and you also are civically engaged and philanthropically engaged in addition to all your other professional commitments. What we find is one of the biggest challenges is for women to prioritize their civic life. And, we kind of try to encourage people, think about this in the hierarchy of your business, your health, your family, your community is very important, in your voice and your participation. What other piece of advice might you share with our Policy Circle community about how do you just prioritize this, or why should you prioritize your civic engagement in your community?
Sure. Well, first of all, your voice matters, and you're the first role model for your family and your children. And so I think many times it's so understandable that people say, I want someone else to do that. I'm raising my family, I've got my job or whatever it is, and I'll participate in certain ways, but that's a different level. That's a whole different level that's only getting harder. But the truth is, if not us, then who? And frankly, it really then has, I think, a ripple effect. When people say, Stacy is in the arena and she's really trying to make a difference, and what could I do? And it really does. You're a role model without realizing it. One of my favorite sayings is, one of the legacies women should often ask are, where are all the women that I mentored? Where are they? Did I really invest in women that are in civic life that needed help as a mom that, needed to understand, how to maybe help with their career trajectory. And every one of us can help that. And so I really do think that you set a tone and you become a role model to your whole community if you engage. And I think that's why, to be honest, I'm so proud of Sylvie and Kathy and Angela for starting the policy circle. Sylvie is just such an extraordinary woman, such a dynamo with humility. I'll tell you what, she is strong.
Oh, very.
But she is humble. And that kind of a combination, I know has made such a difference. And of course, Kathy and I go way, way back. Kathy and Al are very good friends of ours and of over 20 years. And she has been working on empowering and protecting and valuing women her whole life. And, and of course, Angela's own trajectory where, people saw in her, maybe I could be one day.
That's right.
A corporate leader like her. And if you don't see it, you can't think it. You can't imagine it for yourself. And so, I want to just thank them for knowing how important it was to found this organization. And, I think when they did it, I don't think they could have imagined in 2021 just how important it would be. And so I'm so sad not to be there. I know Sylvie was going to come here too, but I'm very proud. We're proud at Goldman Sachs to support Policy Circle. We've hosted a number of events here with our senior women. And, I just really encourage you all to keep going. It really matters. And as I said, I think it's only going to matter more and more every single year.
Absolutely. Dina, we're just honored to spend time with you. We're grateful for your support of the Policy Circle and look forward to more collaboration in the future. And I just wish you all the best with these remarkable endeavors that you're undertaking here at Goldman, and all the best with your daughters as well. So,
well, thank you, Stacy. I so wish I was there in beautiful West Palm. But I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful conference. And I'm struck by a quote I was thinking about, and it's kind of related to civic duty. There's a famous Egyptian poet, Hafiz Ibrahim, who once said, "When you educate a woman, you create a nation." And I would apply when you participate in civil life, civic life, I think you start to invest in our nation, and it's really never been more needed. So thank you for letting me be part of this conference.
My pleasure and my honor. Thank you.
So good to see you again.
You too. This is great.